This is Greg Graham's. This is his house. He has lived here his whole life, way over 60 years. His house has lots of rooms, filled with all kinds of collectibles. He likes to find the best of whatever he is collecting. Hoarder? Collector? You be the judge. There are a lot of houses on TV, but none quite like this. His sons Jay and Brian grew up here, and now work with him. Welcome to the Graham's house. Volo, House of Cars.
Smedley, you look a little worse for wear. How's your record business going, Rock?
Oh, we're trying to make it to...
A curtain call takes priority this morning at Volo Auto Museum, as Greg already has an audience for his restored animatronic show.
Well,
maybe things will get a little better in the morning. Maybe things will get a little better.
I hope so, Rock.
This is as close as I can get to the animatronic show that, Disney had created. And the people, they love it. It is a blast. Walt Disney had a passion for reality, for people, for movement. He created a lot of animals and humans and that looked very real. When I bought the show several years ago, it sat for a long time in our warehouse. I bought it for $3,000. It didn't work at all. And I thought I'd just keep it on display for the general public. However, Brian completely restored this thing for just a little over, I think it was around $50,000 to $75,000. This is a one-of-a-kind show. I was so fortunate to get this show and be able to restore it back to its glory day.
With visions of glory, Greg heads to the weekly War Room meeting, where there's a hint of magic in the air.
Well, here we are, on time. Dad's not here.
Actually, I did see him. He was over by the animatronic pirate show.
Oh, yeah, his eye was lazy. I wonder if he's working on that.
On who, Dad or the pirate?
Good morning, boys.
Ah, good morning.
Right on time, 15 minutes late as usual.
That's right on time for him.
I was repairing Schnedley in the animatronic show. His eye is kind of looking one direction, so what I did is I made a big old patch and put it around him.
It's a pirate, that'll work.
He looks fine. He looks fine, but anyway, yeah, that's why I was late. I was working next door. Thank you for coming in on time. I got a great surprise, especially for you, Brian.
Better not be another airplane.
Well, this is a 1914 Model T. This was built for Walt Disney. Back in the 50s, they actually had Model Ts that they used in the parade. They put the characters in, except this one was special built. Using engineering from the early 50s, he built a Model T that would do wheelies. It would go up in the air, and it goes right around in front of a crowd. It was supposedly restored. I looked at the picture. I mean, what I can see, it's no 100-point restoration. I did get a hold of the nice lady that owns it. It's obvious she don't know much about it because she had it restored and made it black. I don't think she knows what she has. I'm not gonna lie to her. I am gonna tell her what the car is. And it's quite far away. This car is in California.
All right, we're going to California.
No, you guys ain't going to California. I'm gonna go there. I have to see the car. I already talked to the kind lady, and I think we're gonna end up owning that. That is the holy grail of everything you'll have in your Disney gallery.
Call it fate or destiny, but Brian is also on the chase for another vehicle from Walt's Magic Kingdom.
Oh, yeah.
That's the double-decker bus from Disney. They only made 6 of those.
This looks like about a 1910.
It's actually a 1980s. It was designed off of a 1920s double-decker bus from New York. So it's an old look, an old design, but it's Disney, Disney magic, and it's on a modern chassis. So anybody could drive it, it's all modern.
So this, it can be driven anywhere. You can use it around the museum here?
Yep, you can use it indoors. It's run on propane.
Wow.
This Disney bus is extra special because it wasn't one of the transportation buses. This was a show. This is what was actually paraded on with all the characters. I want this bus, and I'm gonna get this bus. Today, they don't have a use for it anymore because they have a building built as a central location for the characters. So they ended up discontinuing it, but a lot of people were upset about that because the double-decker bus has been part of Disney ever since it first opened up in the 50s.
Our ceilings are 14 feet, so we have no problem. But our doors, we're gonna have to rebuild our door, and I'll take care of that.
One thing that is really cool about it is we'll be able to drive laps around in the building with it because it runs on propane.
Yeah, no fumes.
No fumes. All the people, you didn't want to gas them out.
Brian, is that you? Oh, that's goofy.
Brian, did he give you any indication on what he's looking to get out of this bus?
He didn't tell me what he wants to get out of it. I'm hoping he's reasonable.
I would appraise this between $250,000 to $400,000 for a piece like this.
Brian's Disney bus, not merchandise for the museum. Matter of fact, it's going to take up a couple of car spaces. I can buy 10, 15 Mustangs or Camaros for that.
Yeah, but the Camaros come and go. This is a piece of history.
Is this another one of your ghost chases, or you know where this is?
I already talked to him, and I'm actually supposed to meet him. He lives near Whiting, Indiana. They have a car cruise the third Wednesday of the month. It's a big event, and he's bringing it there to be a centerpiece to the show. I got some information on their cruise night. It might be something you want to come with to. They do a car show cruise night, and they got cars for sale there, too. And it's only 90 minutes away.
Well, I like cruise nights. It's just one more source for me to get cars, because all these people are car people, and they have other cars at home in their garage. Not everything is for sale there, but
But you buy a lot of cars at cruise
yeah.
night.
There's no for sale sign. Doesn't mean it's not for sale.
Okay, well, I'm going to be getting my tickets. I'm going to be off to California. You two can go together, and you can kill two birds with one stone. What a week! We're going to be very broke, but we're going to have the best Disney gallery in the planet.
Both Greg and the boys are off to bring a little piece of Walt's kingdom back to Volo, Illinois. The Grams brothers have arrived in Whiting, Indiana. Born of the railroads and the Standard Oil Company in 1889, they are on the hunt for a 1920-style Disney bus. And they're also here to enjoy the monthly Whiting Cruise Night, where Whiting's motor vehicle enthusiasts line up their classic cars and trucks on historic 119th Street, with no vehicles later than 1999 allowed. Jay quickly finds a car he can take home to Dad.
Brian and I are walking along, enjoying ourselves in Whiting, Indiana at their cruise night. We run across a green Superbird Plymouth. Superbird been great merchandise lately. We just sold 2 in 3 weeks. How long have you owned this one?
About 18 years, probably.
Good, so that means you didn't pay much, so you sell it to me, right?
No, I mean, like anything else, you know, if they're hot, there's a possibility it could be for sale.
I'm excited to see a Superbird because we've been selling them. And this is a 6-pack 4-speed. That's awesome. Why don't you think of a number that works for you, and maybe I'll check in with you in a day or so. Tom turned out to be an awesome lead. He's got a Hemi Cuda. He's got this Superbird. He's got 5 cars at home. He doesn't want to sell, but I'll work on them.
My wife would like to have me sell out tomorrow, but I still had them for 40 years. It's kind of hard to get rid of something after all that time. So there's a possibility I'd sell them to the Grams. They're good people.
Brian and I are enjoying ourselves here at Whiting, Indiana. We even tried out our artistic skills, putting a little paint on a car. One of a kind?
It's one of a kind.
For sale, call Brian. Brian has no artistic skills.
While Jay gets an appraisal on his brother's masterpiece, it's time for Brian to bring home one magical ride.
It's a beautiful bus, isn't it?
Are you Paul?
I'm Paul.
Hey, I'm Brian.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. I tell you, it's much more impressive in person than the photos.
Yeah, the pictures didn't show the height, and the color wasn't exactly right.
Yeah, I remember going to Disney and seeing one of these double-decker buses, and I knew they didn't build very many of them, and that they don't use them anymore today, so I figured they got to be out there somewhere. Well, that led me to Paul, who restored this thing over the past 2 years, and now I'm here to buy it from him. And he lives right here in Whiting. Is this the one that toured in Epcot Center with all the characters on it?
Yeah.
I remember that one because I brought my 2 kids there. It was driving by with all the characters on it, thinking, wow, that thing is awesome. That'd be really cool to have.
Well, my grandfather worked for Disney.
Oh, yeah?
And he drove this, or one similar to it. And when my parents would send me to Florida for vacation, I'd stay with my grandfather, and I used to ride on it all the time.
Oh, yeah, you're
That's
lucky.
why getting it was something really special. The Disney bus was used in Disneyland and Epcot Center to haul the characters around to move them from one location to another because they had no basic area to put the characters at that time.
The restoration's incredible. You know, the gold work and the brass. Is that real brass?
That's real brass. Took a lot of time and a lot of money. This bus was very expensive at the time it was built. It's brass, it's solid metal. The paint job alone is worth a lot of money. My father and I were really pleased when we got it finished. It was one of those times where you just stood back and looked and said, ah.
I'm guessing north of $100,000 for the restoration.
Close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why we don't do the restorations. I'm glad you bought it from Disney and did all the work, and I can just cut you a check for it, and I don't have to wait 2 years to enjoy it. I can enjoy it today. Bob Gurney designed these off of a 1920s double-decker New York bus, but built them on a modern chassis. The one I'm looking at today was built in the 1980s off of Gurney's original design. This doesn't belong in your garage.
Well, no, technically it belongs in a museum.
No, it belongs in my museum. Yeah, and the bus is awesome. What are you looking to get out of it?
$250,000.
$250,000? Yeah, I'd have to say that's a fair number for what it is. You know, there's only 6 of these things ever built, so $250,000 for a one of 6 made, which who even knows where the other 5 are if they even still exist. I'm very happy with that price.
Brian is taking this Disney bus back to Illinois, but he might have good reason to return to Whiting.
We're only about an hour and a half away from Whiting, Indiana. I cannot believe I've never even been to this town. It's a gorgeous town.
Whiting has one of the biggest festivals in Indiana, the Pierogi Fest, the last full weekend in July.
I'm known to put down a few pierogies. Tell me more.
250,000 people hit this town in 3 days.
Oh, wow.
For Polish.
Now you got me in the mood for pierogies. Is there any place that sells them today?
There's a couple places in town that sell them, and they sell beer.
Why don't we get a couple pierogies, a cold beer, and we'll do the paperwork, and I'll get you that check.
Keeping this bus for my father and I and nobody else being able to enjoy it, it really isn't fair. I'm glad that Brian's interested in it, and I think at the Volo Museum, it'll be a perfect fit.
My dad's gonna be happy. I don't know if this bus is actually gonna fit in the museum, but it will definitely fit well with what we have in the museum.
Brian's trip to Whiting is a double-decker success. The boys are in Whiting, Indiana at the summer car cruise. Brian struck a deal for the 1980 Disney bus, but Jay is still on the hunt, which leads them to a 1942 Lincoln Zephyr.
So you like the car?
I was just telling them you don't see 42s of any car because of the war. They just weren't making many.
No, I think they made 700.
From the outside, it looked like a 42 Zephyr. Under the hood was big black Chevy with a Corvette front suspension and air conditioning. Pretty cool.
My late husband used to build street rods. It's got heat, air, cruise, and I got it up to about 100.
So is there a lot of sentimental attachment, or are you ready to let it go?
I'm ready to get something different. I won't take no less than 75.
That'd be a great piece of merchandise, but it is beyond retail. And I think she's gonna test the waters, and I don't think she's gonna get what she's asking. She's gonna call me, and we'll talk reality, and then I think we'll get the car and get it sold.
They exchange numbers, but the deal is off. So the boys push on to a 1964 Corvette Stingray.
The fit is real nice, and the lights and the gaps. The finish is smooth. Is this one for sale tonight?
No.
No? One of my worst nightmares is seeing a car that I want and I can't have it. Why is it you don't want to sell it? Are you attached?
Because my kids will kill me.
No, your kids will kill
They'll
you.
be fighting over it when I die.
Well, I'll have to give you my card to give to them.
Looks like you're doing the ghost hunting today.
Although Jay didn't get any papers, he got a lot of great contacts and saw a great town.
The Whiting Cruise Night was real interesting. It's a neat downtown atmosphere, and it's only 90 minutes away from Volo. My brother Brian's coming back for Pierogi Fest. I'll come with Brian, but I'm not buying. He can eat a lot of pierogies.
While the boys finish up in Indiana, Greg has arrived in California at the residence of Eleanor Perry, owner of the Dizzy Lizzy Ford Model T. And even with 50-plus years of experience, Greg feels like a kid at the most magical place on earth.
Mrs.
Hi.
Perry, so nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you, Greg.
I can't believe what's in front of me here. The holy grail of Disney cars, the Dizzy Lizzy. I think I found the original that was built for Mr. Disney himself.
The car belonged to Mrs. Perry's late husband and was the centerpiece in his impressive Disney memorabilia collection.
Actually, my husband spent a lot more time with the car than he spent with me.
While Mrs. Perry wishes to pay respects to her late husband's property, she's interested in selling and has no idea how special this Dizzy Lizzy truly is.
Greg called me and asked if I were interested in selling the car. My husband loved it so much, but more people would see it and enjoy it if it were at a museum.
Greg is more than happy to give Mrs. Perry a history lesson on her late husband's pride and joy.
This is no regular Model T. They used Model Ts in the parades, but Walt wanted the wow factor. He wanted something where people drop their mouths, get all their cameras, take the pictures, and this was the car. The unique engineering in this car is a one of a kind. He moved the wheelbase all the way forward and put in 2 handles. Each one is a separate brake. I mean, it was ingenious. There's actually not very many people would even know how to drive these. I mean, I'm sure you don't have a set of instructions on how to drive this thing. He would get the car going at perfect timing. He'd pull both levers back, and that's what brought the car up. If you can hold it up in the air, you can let go of one of the levers, and it would start to spin in a circle. However, what keeps the car from going up and up and up and not over? He put a little wheel in the back so it wouldn't go any further than that wheel.
Mrs. Perry never showed interest in the car while her husband was alive, but she's impressed by Greg's passion and love for this modified Model T.
I don't know anything about cars. It was one area where my husband and I were on completely different levels. I think he would be very pleased if he knew that his car would be seen by many people, and I think I'm going to sell it.
Greg's enthusiasm is enough to seal the deal.
We have a gallery with all the Disney one-of-a-kind items that was used in parades and in their movies and that, and this is something that all the people need to see. So let's go do the paperwork.
Okay.
There's no better place for the general public to see this than in our huge Disney display. When I get this car back to Volo, I cannot wait to learn how to drive it. I'm gonna make this thing go up in the air, and I am going to spin them around, hopefully with my sons in the back seat. They're gonna get the biggest thrill out of this.
Greg Grams is bringing a rich slice of Walt Disney's World back home to Volo, Illinois. Greg has returned with the Dizzy Lizzy, and he can't wait to take her for a spin.
Jay, you know where your brother's at? The Holy Grail just pulled in the parking lot over here. We're unloading it. Find your brother, and you guys get your butts out here right now, okay? There's nothing like this. I mean, we had one-of-a-kinds, the first car, the first scooter. I've never had anything like this where you actually done wheelies, and this was Walt Disney back in 1957. I mean, you gotta think about that.
Hey, it's here.
Yeah, hey, the Holy Grail made it in here.
Well, I don't know if it's the Holy Grail. I think my Disney bus might be the Holy Grail.
That's nowhere near as much fun as this can be if I learn how to use it.
I don't know much about Model Ts, but I see the crank in the front. You gotta crank it to start it?
He did actually modify the engine. It's the original Model T engine, but it went from like 18 horse to about 28 horse. So it's got enough power to raise this thing up in the air. There's one little problem, guys. It takes the average guy 2 weeks to learn how to drive a Model T, but give me 10 minutes to learn how to drive this thing.
This thing spins around, does wheelies, and you're gonna learn in 10 minutes. I'm supposed to get in the back.
I need some bubble wrap.
As the boys patiently wait for their first ride in the legendary vehicle, Greg is in the driver's seat, learning the mechanics of this modified Model T. And instead of 10 minutes, Greg only needs 7.
Well, boys, you ready to go for a ride?
7 minutes, that wasn't 10.
I know how to drive a Mercedes. This is kind of like it. There'll be no problem. Jane Bryan was a little concerned because I only had like 10 minutes to learn how to drive it. It's not like a regular car. And yes, could it take off on me and whack into a tree? Very easily.
We had some safety concern. I looked in the car, and there's no airbags, and there's no seat belts.
Regular Model T is hard enough to drive, and this has got extra levers and cables and buttons and whistles. You didn't learn it in 10 minutes, I can tell you that.
You boys ready?
Although it's not the smoothest ride, the boys are ecstatic for Dad and his new toy.
Pretty exciting day for my father. His Dizzy Lizzy was delivered today, and now I know why they call it Dizzy.
We had a blast today. More fun than anything we had ever gotten over here.
Yeah, I haven't seen my dad this excited since when he bought the Batmobile.
This thing is scary. Like I say, be ready to jump up and move. I'm very happy with it because it runs, it drives, and I learned how to use it. I had found out the 2 levers, you have to pull them down, and you have to put it in neutral at the same time, and that's the only way to get the car back down. I found out how to do the wheelies. Of course, spinning around, I felt like we were gonna tip over. It's a very narrow wheelbase on there. I think we did a pretty good job. I'm just thrilled. I mean, it's perfect. There's nothing I have to do to it. We're gonna park it and we're gonna use it in the summer for special events.
It is a great addition to the museum. I just hope I don't have to ride in it again.
We got this historic artifact over here. I would have been happy with it even without it running, but when I got in this thing, she started right up and I had a ball.
The Dizzy Lizzy is right at home at Volo Auto Museum. The test drive is over, and Brian's bus has just arrived.
Well, it sounds like another good week. We got some very good leads, Jay, on the cars.
We went to Whiting, Indiana for their cruise night they have monthly, and this guy had a Superbird. Turns out he has a Hemi Cuda and some others. They aren't for sale, but I'm working on them. I think we're gonna get these cars.
So you got some good leads.
Yeah.
That's where Jay got his Mickey Mouse lead, but I got us a real lead. They have Pierogi Fest there.
Ooh, pierogies.
So they say they get more vendors selling food than the Taste of Chicago, and they get about 250,000 people in there that...
Hope it's not all you can eat, because they'll lose money on you.
They got that right.
And we got a couple great historical artifacts from Disney over here that's gonna be now on display. Why did they sell the bus?
There just wasn't many people that could appreciate it with him owning it. He thought it should be in a museum. There's only one problem. You need to put in a new garage door so I can get this in the building. It's not tall enough.
I gotta say, mine's just a little bit rare.
I'm slowly recovering from that test drive in the Dizzy Lizzy.
I guess I could have used that extra 3 minutes to learn how to come down slower. You guys will get over it.
Volo Auto Museum now has 2 of Walt Disney's magical motor vehicles under its roof.
Whether we win or lose, it's another good week for the house. Volo House of Cars.